open. Figure this isn't a matchup where play draw has too much impact, though the Super Friends deck does have some pretty explosive draws.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little slow, like it's meat and potatoes is at 3, but it does have some number of Mox Amber on occasion. I'm curious if Jonathan Blank's list is running the...
Looks like there's no Moxen in the list. A lot of Planeswalkers.
It's a lot more of a controlling looking list. 4 copies of Lava Coil and definitely Clarion main deck, 2 Search for Azcanta, 4 Shock, and 2 Expansion. And of course, you can check out these deck lists on Cardboard Live. Those should be up if not shortly. And you can see just how interesting this build of the Jeskai Super Friends deck is. Normally we see things like Fibblethip and Mox Amber, as well as like some Spell Pierces trying to play that like kind of tempo game plan. But Jonathan Blank going full on control mode with a bunch of Clarion and Search.
And kind of a win for Jim Davis. His turn 2 play was a Wild Growth Walker. That's kind of what gives you your life buffer so you can actually resolve command the Dread Horde. There was a check there for Blank to have a Lava Coil. He did not have it. Let's see if we can do some exploring. Here's a Jadelight Ranger for Davis. He's going to shock off a Temple Garden to cast that. There's some concern about his Wild Growth Walker dying. It's actually going to be the Jadelight Ranger that eats a shock here.
Yeah, this is really bad for Blank because now the Wild Growth Walker is going to go up to 5 toughness, which puts it out of Lava Coil range. And even though Shock took care of the Jadelight Ranger, that Wild Growth Walker is going to be pounding in for quite a bit of damage here over the next few turns. And he's going to have to play something like a Teferi Time Raveler or one of those other Planeswalkers that have a bounce or removal effect in order to get it off the battlefield because the rest of his deck doesn't do it.
Yeah, so Hinterland Harbor was explored to the hand. Tameo, Collector of Tales, left on top. Wild Growth Walker will chunk in for 3. Jonathan Blank to 17. Davis off up to 24 off of the Double Explore. Tapped Hallowed Fountain for Blank, and he just has to pass back. No Teferi to bounce the Walker.
Yeah, this is good news for Jim because he's able to maintain this pressure with the Wild Growth Walker, and with a Tameo that he left on top from the Explorer, he could cast that and start getting to work. But from the way this start has happened, there's a chance Jim is under the impression that he's not playing against the Super Friends deck. He's playing against something like a more traditional Jeskai control deck, so he needs to play around something like Settle the Wreckage next turn, perhaps. So it might change how he plays the next few turns.
Based off the cards we saw, Davis could have just played Hinterland Harbor Tabio this turn. Instead, he's going to apply a little bit more pressure with creatures. Going to cast a Jadelight Ranger, explore a Godless Shrine to the hand. Looking at another Tameo Collector of Tales on top of the library. Not sure whether he wants to draw that or bin it. And he's going to put it in the graveyard.
Yeah, he's, I think, a little wary of stuff like Negate, Absorb, Dovin's Veto, that kind of thing here. So opting to play the Jadelight Ranger so he doesn't get hit with a counterspell this turn. Unbeknownst to him, there are no counterspells on the other side of things here.
Yeah, just a lot of burn spells. So Jim's going to gain 6 life off of that Wild Growth Walker. It's going to grow up to a 5. He'll attack for 5. Blank's at 12. Davis is at 30. And they'll play that Godless Shrine tapped. Pretty far ahead on the table as it stands.
So I played this 4-color Dread Horde deck Thursday night. I learned about it Thursday morning around 1 a.m.
Okay.
And then Thursday night, I played 3 matches with the deck. I cast Wild Growth Walker on turn 2. Never.
That's quite a bit better when you have that one.
I was like, what's all the fuss about? What is everybody, I'm always at 20. I have no creatures in the graveyard. What, am I going to go to 3 life and put 3 Planeswalkers in play?
Yeah.
No.
It's quite a bit different story when you're gaining life. Speaking of gaining life, 4th land for Jonathan Blank is going to be Interplanar Beacon. He'll cast a Kasmina, go up to 13, make a wizard, loot away a Hallowed Fountain. So he has a chump blocker. I suppose it does engage in combat with the Jadelight Ranger at least.
Yeah. And because his card is Japanese and these new cards from War of the Spark, a bit confusing. See Jonathan there. Friendly explaining to Jim Davis exactly what Kasmina does. Planeswalkers and creatures have to have 2 mana added to any removal spell targeting them.
Yeah, spells and abilities cost 2 more to target. Just spells. See, I can't even get it right.
Oh, it's fine. No, Teferi Time Raveler was actually insanely good against Kasmina, which is something that Jim has in hand, which is pretty
That'll
great
work
for
out.
him. Yeah. So it looks like he's going to go for that here off that Interplanar Beacon. He's going to bounce the token. He's going to let Jadelight Ranger clean up that Kasmina and pop in for 5 damage to the Domski.
Yep, Jim up to 31 off the Teferi. Get that token out of here. He's looking at 8 power. You can choose to take down the Kasmina, which I assume that he will.
Yeah, you usually want to clear Planeswalkers when you're not attacking for lethal. There's a lot to be said about Planeswalkers that are stuck on 1 loyalty with no active abilities after that, just just static effects. But with Kasmina still able to loot, I think Jim wants to basically constrict the options that Blank has. And just a 3-point attack at Kasmina seems pretty worthwhile.
Merfolk Branchwalker is going to put another Teferi Time Raveler into Davis's graveyard. He'll pump that Wild Growth Walker up to a 6. He'll go to 34. Jade Light Ranger takes down the Planeswalker. Wild Growth Walker bumps Blank down to 7. Will go back his way. He needs something pretty big to recover from this.
Yeah, this is not a great look on Jonathan Blank's side. He didn't have that early Lava Coil for the Wild Growth Walker, and it's just been giving him headaches this entire game. His follow-up here on turn 5 when he's super far behind is Sarkhan the Masterless, a card that traditionally is very good when you're ahead and lets you attack with a bunch of Planeswalkers you already have on the battlefield. But he's going to make a dragon here with the Sarkhan, and I don't know. Things look pretty grim.
Yeah, so he's paying 3 loyalty off the Sarkhan to make a 4/4 that's just much smaller than the Wild Growth Walker.
Yeah.
Does not look pretty.
Jim actually has a Command the Dreadhorde in hand. I'm not sure if he has the land, but he could choose to just cast Command the Dreadhorde for only Teferi, use Teferi Time Raveler to minus and bounce.
Well, how about another Teferi off the top?
Do.
Get that dragon out of there. He's got more than lethal on the table. Jim Davis up a game over Jonathan Blank.
Yeah, quick and to the point. And honestly, as someone who plays a lot of red-based mid-range and control decks, Wild Growth Walker is occasionally really problematic. If you don't kill it early on, a single Jade Light Ranger usually puts it out of range of a single Lava Coil, and it can just get out of hand. We saw that game. It gained Jim roughly 15 life or so, and ultimately ended with Jonathan Blank just unable to contain that very large creature that started on turn 2.
So something that I was looking at when I saw all these Sarkhan the Masterless decks putting up results was, what would it cost me to buy some Sarkhan the Masterless? They were cheaper than I thought. And if you like deals on Magic cards, check out the Magic the Gathering sale on StarCityGames.com. We have hundreds of singles on sale through Monday. There's some heaters up on the screen here. You see that Judge Foil Imperial Recruiter?
That's a nice one.
That is a really nice one.
Yeah, I've gotten one of those myself back when I was a certified level 1 judge. And Callie's gotten one of those before too. And that was back when the regular uncommon ones for Portal 3 Kingdom were like $100. So the Judge Foil was like $150. That's a nice one. I'm curious how much it's worth now. I haven't checked in a long time.
Yeah, they were reprinted in one of those Masters sets.
Oh yeah.
God, Masters 25, I believe,
Sure.
Imperial Recruiter is in. It has different art, but that stuff does change. See some Japanese Portal 3 Kingdoms card that I don't know. The only horse card that I know is Riding the Dealu Horse, which is a green card.
Right.
Is some I actually have no idea what that card is.
It's probably like all your creatures get +2/+2 in horsemanship or something.
What I can tell you
There's a horse on it.
It's probably expensive.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's a Portal 3 Kingdoms card.
Yeah.
But check out that sale. Go to StarCityGames.com/sale. Get some deals on some cards that you might need or just generally want.
All right, let's go over sideboards here. Let's do a little bit what we were doing yesterday. Let's do the one card at a time. I'll say yes or no and maybe give a short explanation why.
Sure. Let's start with Jonathan Blank, the Jeskai Super Friends side of things. 4 Legion War Boss.
Don't really need it. It's better against decks that don't have a lot of blockers. Jim's able to apply a lot of blockers to the battlefield.
3 Prison Realm.
Perfect card for the deck. Gives them a clean answer to Wild Growth Walker as well as a bunch of those Planeswalkers.
2 Baffling End.
Probably worthwhile since he has to play the control role and it deals with a large Wild Growth Walker, but the key in Jim's deck is actually the Planeswalkers, so I don't know if I want it over that something else because you're already bringing in Prison Realm.
2 Dovin's Veto.
I like it, but there's a chance that Jim just has that creature-based draw, so it's a fine card, but it can definitely be a miss at times, especially with Teferi Time Raveler coming down and locking out all instants.
2 Lyra Dawnbringer.
Not really what you want in this match. Better against aggressive decks, really bad against Teferi Time Raveler.
Gideon Blackblade.
A really more of an aggressive card, much like Legion Warboss. You want to bring that in against decks that don't really have a lot of blockers or good ways to attack it.
Karn, Scion of Urza.
Again, not really for this matchup, but he might want it since he's moving towards more of a control role. I suspect if he brings in Baffling in and Prison Realm, he also wants to bring in the card to kind of act as another card revenge engine.
All right, then for Jim Davis on 4-color Dreadhorde, 3 Duress.
Love it. Hits almost every single card in the deck, unless some Lyra Dawnbringers make their way in.
2 Cry of the Carnarium.
Nah, mostly Planeswalkers from Jonathan Blank's side don't want a sweeper effect like that.
2 Crowl Harpooner.
Might be worthwhile as a cheap beater that can sometimes snag a Lyra Dawnbringer if that's something that does come in, but I don't think that Jim's going to bring it in, and I agree with that.
2 Cast Down.
Again, no real targets for it.
2 Thrashing Brontodon.
Not a whole lot of enchantments, but there's a chance that he just is afraid of the Prison Realms and the Baffling Ends, and even something like Search for Escanto, which Jonathan actually does have. So he might bring it in as like a hedge, but it all depends on what he wants to take out. And most of the cards in his main deck are quite good in the matchup.
Finale of Eternity.
That's the one that kills black. Or it's the black one.
I believe so.
Yeah, that one's more of against like mono white, mono red. That's not really for this matchup.
The Elder Spell.
Perfect for this matchup. Hey, it kills all your planeswalkers.
Yeah, pretty good. You already saw Sarkhan, so you know that one's going to be good.
Yeah.
Narset Porter of Veils.
I do like Narset quite a bit. When your opponent's not attacking you very much, it's very similar to a 3-mana Dig Through Time, and it shuts off like various card draw effects like Kasmina and opposing Teferi Time Raveler minuses.
Hostage Taker.
No real targets again.
All right, that all makes sense. Looks like players are drawing up opening 7s. See if we can get them both to keep.
Now, let us know on Twitter if you like that method of sideboard explanation, because we could do the whole list it off, and I'll try to do the my take on the ins and outs and stuff. But going over each card one by one, I think is very helpful for a lot of players, especially like if you're unfamiliar with the decks.
I've been digging it. It's a scalpel rather than a jackhammer. You know what I mean? Real elegant, but yeah, your feedback is of course more important than mine as the viewer. Sacred Foundering is tapped is where Jonathan Blank will start. Not really a deck that gets on the table on turn 1, so that makes sense.
Jim has a Duress here. He can fire off on turn 1. I was curious if he was going to just wait until turn 2 to cast it because he didn't have a Wild Growth Walker to play. Or a Branch Walker.
He did choose to cast it turn 1, shocked off an Overgrown Tomb for that. We'll get a look at Blank's hand.
We have a Clarion, a Prison Realm, a Time Raveler, a Lava Coil, a Narset, and a Clifftop Retreat. So no blue mana here for Jonathan Blank. Kind of maybe a greedy keep, but mulliganing here against a deck where you are pretty sure they're going to bring in some amount of discard like Duress is a little risky. And if he does draw the blue mana, this hand is tight.
Notably, it would take double blue to get the Narset going, but I suppose the first blue gets you a redraw with the Teferi, so there's enough to like about the hand, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically a pretty good 6, and then Narset's kind of a freebie if you draw 2 blue mana sources. So I definitely can understand the keep here from Jonathan Blank's side. If I'm Jim, I think I'm either looking at Teferi, Time Raveler, or Prison Realm. Prison Realm can potentially steal one of your Planeswalkers and lock it down, but he has multiple copies of Vraska Golgari Queen in his hand, so the Prison Realm is not really a threat.
Yeah, so Teferi Time Raveler was the take. We go to Jonathan Blank. He'll play that Clifftop Retreat, pass back.
And if Blank doesn't draw a blue mana source here, it might be over before it begins.
Even a third land is going to be really important. What? Blue mana, even more so. Hinterland Harbor for Davis. No Wild Growth Walker. No third land for Jonathan Blake. So can Jim Davis run away with it is the question.
I think he's going to. He has a Narset Porter of Veils in hand, and he just drew Interplanar Beacon, I believe, so he has the second blue mana required. Let's see what he goes for here.
Interplanar Beacon's the land. There's that Narset. He'll go to 19.
Yeah, this is the good pivot side from Jim's deck after Sideboard, and also just he has the choice of what cards to play. He Duresses, he sees Lava Coil. If he had the choice between Narset or Jadelight Ranger, you got to bet he's playing that Narset over the Jadelight Ranger because he doesn't want to give Jonathan Blank the chance to use that mana that's just kind of rotting on his side of the table.
Narset's going to pick up a Duress for Davis, though he's playing against an opponent that can't cast spells. We'll see. He probably would play a threat over that. We'll see where his turn goes. Once again, Jonathan Blank missing that third land drop.
Yeah, and here I wouldn't be surprised if Jim just doesn't minus the Narset because something like Shock could kill it, and his hand is already kind of wrapped up. But he decides that he's going to go digging a little more. Going to look for like another Planeswalker, maybe Tamio here.
Yeah, finds Tamio Collector of Tales off of that second Narset activation. You do really want to compound the pressure while your opponent is stumbling, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I felt like with Jim's hand just being so potent with spells, keeping the Narset out of shock range was potentially a good idea. However, in this spot, like it doesn't matter that much. Jim here looking like he might minus the Tamiyo and go get that duress. I like it. And the next turn he can basically go double duress and just completely strip Jonathan of anything useful to cast.
You do guarantee the card that way. So yeah, he'll go back to 20 off the Tamiyo, -3. So now we know he has at least 2 duresses in hand. Jonathan Blank finally hits the 3rd land drop. It is untapped. This is Sulphur Falls. Does he have any action?
And he's got Prison Realm, and he's going to use that to knock off the Tamiyo. But unfortunately for him, Jim not only has Vraska Golgari Queen, he also has multiple duresses he can fire off if he so chooses. This is just all sorts of bad for Jonathan Blank. That early stumble just basically locked the door before it even began.
Prison Realm scries to the bottom, back on Jim Davis's side of things.
Jim can actually just minus the Teferi Time Raveler to bounce the Prison Realm if he so chooses, just to like create a tempo play where he gets a Narset activation and then forces Jonathan Blank to just spend a whole extra turn playing the Prison Realm again.
Well, he can also,
then he blows up again.
He can also just bounce it and then duress him.
That's true too. This is not good, TM.
All right, so Davis will start on Teferi Time Raveler. He'll go to 21 off of that beacon. It's going -3, bounce your Prison Realm, give me my Tamiyo back. Draw a card.
Yeah, and he can go duress and then minus the Tamiyo again before ticking up.
Just thinking about a tick up here.
What do you name when you
what
have
am
the
I
World's
missing?
Fair? Command the Dreadhorde, maybe?
That is one thing about the Command the Dreadhorde deck, is sometimes you're just happy if you just put Planeswalkers in your graveyard when you up the Tamiyo. Whatever he named, looks like he's not grabbing it. He named Wild Growth Walker. Going to be a miss. I think the Elder Spell, a Duress, another Tamiyo hitting the graveyard.
Yeah, and next turn, though, he can just minus on the Tamiyo to get back either the Elder Spell or the Command the Dreadhorde. So this is just all sorts of bad news for Jonathan. Jim here just has everything.
Here's that Duress. We see another Deafening Clarion was picked up. Second Narset. A Sarkin the Masterless, and that Prison Realm that Jim just bounced. That seems to be the most inviting target of this lot.
I mean, with the Vraska Golgari Queen in hand, I kind of actually just like giving him letting him cast Prison Realm again, and just taking something that can potentially be troublesome in the long game, like the Sarkin the Masterless, because like the couple of Narsets that are there, again, you know, he can all the 3-mana permanents. He can just pop them with his Vraskas. So
sure.
You know, I like just checking the things that can surprise, be troublesome.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to go for uncastables outside of something that maybe is very problematic later. The stuff like the removal spells, obviously you leave those behind. And Jim's just going to show second Duress is coming down the pipeline. He's going to go for both of the blue Planeswalkers, actually.
Yeah, and even though Jonathan Blank can't cast them, it's one way for him to gain traction that Jim doesn't have a lot of answers to. And even if he does have the answer, it still kind of replaces itself with another card.
Right, so here is a Prison Realm on that Tamiyo.
And this is kind of why I wanted to play the minus on the first Duress, cast the Duress before you use the Tamiyo's ability, simply because you have to assume that Blank is going to use the Prison Realm again. And now Jim can go for that Vraska Golgari Queen, excuse me, minus on the Prison Realm. Get back to Tamiyo, get back to Duress, cast Duress again.
Blank hit the 4th land drop. There's a Sacred Foundry tapped. We'll go back to Jim Davis. Here's that Vraska, presumably going right for that Prison Realm.
Yeah, you have to imagine.
And that will be so. Tamiyo coming back once again. It's going down. Jim will pick up Duress once again, fire that one off right away.
He actually could tick up Teferi Time Raveler and during the draw step to potentially hit something a little more powerful. But Sarkin the Masterless is one of the best possible hits, so there's not a whole lot of difference.
And he took the Sarkin. You are right, though. Sequencing there, your opponent can't do anything about the draw step Duress.
Right. It's more about just perfect information. Jim ahead by a lot, though. 4 Planeswalkers to none. Grip full of cards versus like 3. 2 of which are Deafening Clarion, which do nothing against Planeswalkers. And you're starting to see really the dual-sided nature of Jim's deck coming into play. The Jeskai deck has to leave in removal like Deafening Clarion to check things like Jadelight Ranger and Merfolk Branchwalker, and he's just getting absolutely decimated by these Planeswalkers.
And Davis saw the draw step anyway. Blank just drew and played Sulfur Falls, and we'll go back to Mr. 4 Planeswalker man, Jim Davis. What are you going to do with all those?
So he has the ability here to use the Elder Spell to pop off one or more of the Planeswalkers if he so chooses, to put a bunch of loyalty on something like Narset, but, you know, I wouldn't be that greedy. Elder Spell is a very good card in this matchup for clearing an opposing Planeswalker, and he can even cast it at instant speed if he so chooses.
So instead, he's going to command the Dreadhorde. He has caused Jonathan Blank to discard a lot of good cards, and Blank's not even going to bother. He's going to scoop this one up. Jim Davis, 2-0 is going to be your winner in round number 10. He'll advance to 9-1.
Yeah, that was impressive stuff from Jim, and we didn't get to see it, but that was going to be a command the Dreadhorde for Sarkhan the Masterless, which pluses.